Traditional policing does have a place here. But if you think that you're just going to come here and all I want you to do is kick in doors and lock people up, this is not the agency for you.
Brothers and sisters, brothers and sisters, I don't know what this world is coming to.
You're listening to the Black and Blue Podcast, a discussion and celebration of the roles of African Americans and other minorities in U.S. law enforcement. Your host on the Black and Blue Podcast is Dale Peters, a law enforcement professional with over 20 years experience in the business. Hop on board this Black and Blue train of interviews, current events, and pop culture conversations. So get ready. The Black and Blue Podcast is coming at you right now. What up, Black and Blue fam? Welcome to the latest edition of the Black and Blue Podcast, where we celebrate diversity in U.S. law enforcement. Y'all know me. My name is Dale, and I'm the host. Thank you for joining me for this episode because I got a banger for you. But first, hey, let me ask you, please click those like, subscribe, and bell icons right down here on my YouTube channel. And if you listen to me on your favorite podcast platform, make sure you rate the Black and Blue Podcast 5 stars. And finally, make sure you follow me on any one of my social media pages for even more content. You can find me everywhere at Black and Blue US. All right, so now that we did that, let's do this. My guest today was recently appointed as the interim chief of police for a very specialized law enforcement agency in Boston. So Black and Blue fam, help me welcome to the show, Interim Boston Housing Authority Police Chief, Din Jenkins. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, Dale. Thank you for having me, my friend.
Absolutely. How's things going out there in Boston today?
This is the best time of year to be in the northeast of the United States with the foliage and the beautiful crisp fall weather, and of course,
yes,
football season. So this is a good time to be out here.
You don't want to talk about your Patriots right now. You really don't.
Yeah, it's a down year for the Patriots, but yeah. Boston College is playing pretty well, so we'll go with that.
Okay. Yeah, I just came back from a conference in Seattle, and that's another kind of temperate climate right there, and it's really pretty seeing all the trees turning colors and all that. But I'm back down here in LA now, and it's all one color and all one temperature. Yeah. So, hey, I appreciate you coming on. And like I said there in the intro, you are now the interim chief of police for the Boston Housing Authority Police Department. Real quick, tell everybody about what the Boston Housing Authority Police Department is.
So the Boston Housing Authority Police Department, like you said, we're a specialized agency. We are a quasi-municipal agency where we function like a municipality, but our jurisdiction mainly resides within the housing developments in the city of Boston.
Okay. And how long have you been there?
So I am going on 3 years and change since I came over. So I left my last job. I was an administrative sergeant, and I was able to earn an opportunity to become the deputy chief here at Boston Housing. And like you said, a little over a month ago, I was promoted to interim chief.
Nice. And about how strong, how large is the department there?
So that's the thing. So my sworn, I have about 14 sworn, and I have about 65 civilian. So I have a force of roughly about 80 folks from all walks of life, and we served some of the most underserved and really marginalized communities in New England. And it's an honor to do that, and it's an honor to be able to advocate for those that don't always have people that advocate for them. It's an honor to be able to serve people that, like I said, are underserved and are sometimes left out of the conversation.
And as a housing authority officer, what are the sorts of things that they deal with? Homelessness is still an issue, regardless if you're working for the housing authority or not. I'm sure that's one of the issues you deal with, right?
It is. So, being here in Boston during the warm weather months, it's less of an issue. because people are outside and they're able to
Yeah.
do what it is they want to do outside. But now that it's getting a little colder, here we are in mid-October. Folks are starting to find their way into our buildings, and that creates another issue for our tenants that want to enjoy the same peace and tranquility that we all want to enjoy as part of the American dream. And now we have people infringing into the hallway spaces, basement spaces, laundry room spaces, and they're bringing some of their bad habits with them. Be it substance abuse, crime, property crimes, things of that nature. So, just trying to have a delicate balance between understanding that some folks are just caught in a tough situation, they need a little help, and some folks, the response maybe needs to be a little stronger. So we're able to partner with some of our brother and sister law enforcement agencies around the city to act accordingly.
Yeah. Yeah. And partnering up, do you also partner up with social departments to help out with those individuals and getting help with their housing needs?
So we do. So one of the things that is special about the Boston Housing Authority is we've really embraced 21st century policing practices. And one of the things that's a major part of that is realizing that a jail cell is not always the solution for everybody. There are people that are suffering from food insecurity, and maybe they need a little help from that with that. There are people that like you said, that are homeless. Because if we look and if we're honest about what a housing authority is, for many people, that is the last stop before homelessness. So we try to balance that. We try to make sure that we work with folks, make the appropriate referrals, be it for substance abuse, be it for, again, food insecurity, things of that nature, just to make sure that people have all the opportunities that possible before they reach that last step of ultimately being moved out of the housing authority and having to make some very difficult life choices from there.
For sure. All right, good work on that. So we mentioned before that you came from another agency, and I could tell from the accent you were definitely from the native of the Boston area, right?
I don't have an accent. I don't know what you're talking about. You have an accent.
I don't know. Yeah, why you sipping on that water?
Yeah. So I have a slight Boston accent. It's funny because people around here really don't think mine is heavy. Like this is light around here. If you talk to some other folks, it would sound like maybe something you'd hear in a movie. But yes, it does exist. I do have it a little bit.
Yeah, but you're originally from the area?
I am. I grew up in Massachusetts. I grew up in a town called Stoughton, which is approximately a half hour southwest of the city. It is it's a neighboring town to the city of Brockton, Mass, which many people have heard of. And yeah, great. It was a great place to grow up. It is currently probably one of the most diverse areas in all of Massachusetts, as far as suburbs go, where there's a robust population of Black folks, there's a robust population of Brazilian folks. And when I say Black, that's all encompassing. We have folks that are from Haiti, folks that are from many African nations. And I got to tell you, we are a shining example of how you can get people from different walks of life, from different beliefs, different upbringings, and we can make it work.
All right. Yep. And I said it before we got rolling here that I wasn't going to talk politics, but you were talking about all those different nationalities living in that area. All their cats and dogs are safe, though, right?
No, everybody's safe. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. just wanted to get that out there. And then, so growing up in that area, what kind of made you want to think about law enforcement as a career?
It's funny because growing up here, I did not think about this. I got into law enforcement late in life, and I got into it for reasons that are really pretty boring. I started my law enforcement journey at 28 years old. So before I was in law enforcement, I went to college and I wanted to be a football coach or a basketball coach. I played basketball in college for a very short time, ended up playing football for 4 years, doing a year of track and field for a year. And all the while I knew that in my head, I wanted to go and I wanted to continue to share my knowledge and my love of sport with young people and help them grow. So that was my path. When I was in college. I fast forward a few years, I had a few sales jobs. And that kind of changed the way I viewed people. And I got to say, that was some of the best training for law enforcement that you could possibly have, in that, in sales, you just really develop your ability to talk to people and to
Yes.
hear what people need, and find other ways, and find creative ways to solve problems and solve issues. And when I was 28, I hit a crossroad in my life where I needed to do something more than doing straight commission sales. I needed a little more security in my life. So I really just was looking for something that had steady pay and benefits, something where I knew what I was going to make from week to week, so I could plan, and something that, as my medical needs grew, I wasn't going to have to come out of pocket for it. And I stumbled into a law enforcement job, and I got to say, I got into it for some pretty vanilla reasons, but I stayed for the very best reasons. Once I got on the job and I started realizing that there were people that really needed advocacy, they needed to see people like me that look like me in a law enforcement role.
Yeah.
And they needed somebody that really cared. And then I could use some of those sales skills to really listen and hear people, not just hear the words that were coming out of their mouth, but really hear them when they when they needed to vent, or needed to some guidance from law enforcement.
Right.
So that's why I stayed. It's been very rewarding.
Okay. And then you did a number of years there. What sort of activities did you do there at that department that you were with?
So I've worked for 8 different departments. So I've been for several different.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you're a basketball fan, my career reads like Robert Ory's basketball career.
with the rings too, right?
Yes, with the rings too. We've done a lot of good work, but that very first department was almost similar to a housing to the role I'm in now. It was a Boston special police officer, and you had full police powers in certain housing developments around the city. And that's when I was able to meet people that dispelled a lot of misnomers about people that live in tough situations, about like people, everybody's a gangbanger, everybody's, these people all think this way. That wasn't the case at all. The overwhelming majority of the people that I met and I interacted with were people that like some of my family members. They were good people that just needed a little help. And they needed a little advocacy, and they needed all the things that we want, but it's tougher to get when you're in an area where there's a little more crime. So that's why it was so important to be able to partner with law enforcement for these folks, and have people that would truly hear them, their concerns, and make sure that when we had conversations that I wasn't outing them. So the people that were in the area that were making life a little more difficult for them might not know who was feeding me the information. And just being there to help people out with what they need, whether sometimes it was helping them carry groceries up to the 3rd floor. And sometimes it was making sure that I was at a certain place at a certain time, because there were certain folks that were gathering in at that time and place that needed to be addressed.
There you go. Then you said you left your last agency before this one here as an admin sergeant. What did that entail?
So the administrative role was a difficult decision for me, because I got to tell you, Dale, I never fashioned myself as much of a house cat. I was always a street cop. I was always a guy when there was a difficult situation. I think most people that I've worked with would tell you that I was usually one of the first people through the door. I was the type of person that whether a situation needed a calm head and somebody to talk, I was a good guy to have with you. And when it needed to go beyond that, because the choices of the people we were dealing with made it so that we had to escalate our response, I think most people tell you that I was a good guy to have around for that as well. I made the decision to take an administrative role because being on the street, for a lot of reasons, it's a younger man's game. I was no longer the young man anymore. I wasn't really much of a. Yeah. I got to be honest. I know you folks can't see me out there. I'm a fairly large guy, and I am not much help to you or anybody else in a foot chase. Not at this stage of my life. So maybe it made more sense for me to.
Hey, Dean, that's why they make cars, though.
Well, that's why they make cars, but cars can't go up stairways. Cars can't go down alleys and go over fences. So these are things that are more suited for some of the younger folks that are coming up in the job now. But I really wanted to do something where I could utilize my mind and put myself on a path to promote or to maybe find other ways to move on beyond the rank of sergeant. So I took on a role as an accreditation manager, trying to learn a little bit more about that end of the business. I took on a role as the public records access officer for doing freedom of information request for the agency. So folks at home, if you're listening, those are like if you request a police report, if you request video surveillance footage or anything like that from the police department, it's not always as simple as you request it and here I just hand it over to you. There are all these special legal considerations that need to go into it. And being trained in that was something that was it became appealing to me because it was something that I knew would help me reach the executive level of law enforcement. And my gamble paid off because I had that experience coupled with some education, getting my master's degree very late in life at 43 years old. That allowed me to compete for a deputy chief position, even though I was only a sergeant. And the rest is history. So it really was a calculated risk. Again, it was something that I just thought would pay dividends in the future.
And it definitely did, Aaron. Congratulations on that.
So
You brought up an interesting thing there. We were talking about, your gamble to come out of the field because, you were a large guy. You still are a large guy.
Yeah.
And I know nowadays, the buzzwords are, and rightfully so, mental wellness as far as law enforcement officers go, we have to deal with on a daily basis, keeping our mind and our bodies in shape. What are your philosophies on keeping our minds right for this job?
So I'm glad you asked me that. So one of the things that I do now that I'm kind of sitting at the head of the table is I try to check in with my folks as much as possible. And it can be as simple as just first of all, engaging them in just basic conversation. Every time you talk to your folks, if you're a leader out there, it doesn't necessarily have to be about the job or some aspect of the job. Make it about them. And when you have these conversations, here's the important piece. When they talk to you about their family, when they talk to you about things that are important to them, things that they love to do outside of work, try to remember what that was. So the next time you have a follow-up with them, you don't have to keep, repeating the same record over and over, which makes you seem like you're disingenuous and you really don't care because, like we've all like, hey, wait a minute, like, why are you asking me what my hobbies are? Because we literally just had that conversation a week ago and now we're starting from ground zero. So taking a genuine interest in your people is huge. Encouraging people that when they're off to be off. That's a tough one for a lot of bosses. So like every other agency, we're understaffed and we have way more work than we could ever hope to be able to address. So on one hand, as a boss, you want to get as much work done as possible, but you also have to be able to stick up for your folks when people are saying, hey, I don't see your people around. Why aren't there more of you? I'm not afraid to stand up in a community meeting and say, listen, I understand your concerns, but the people that work here are just that. They're people. They're human beings. They have families. They have feelings. They need to recharge. They need sleep. They need all the things that you need to do, but maybe even on a greater scale because of the things that we, some of the horrible things that we see, some of the horrible things that we're subjected to, some of the things that we smell, some of the things that end up on our bodies and on our uniforms as substances. All of that are things that take a toll. And that's why it is so important for me as a leader to make sure that I'm encouraging people to take time. I'm encouraging people to maybe think about maybe you don't pick up a special detail and work 90 hours a week. Maybe I encourage people, listen, like I can't order you not to work this extra shift, but maybe you take a day and sleep in or work half a shift, sleep if you work like 4 to midnight. Maybe you don't always take a shift that means you got to be back at 7 a.m. and you're pulling 16-hour days. Sleep till 11 and then work a half a shift. These are things that we can do. And again, sometimes it's at the risk of the overall goal is obviously to get as much work done as possible. But if my folks are burnt out, how much work am I going to get out of them if they're burnt out and they're exhausted? I really can't expect them to perform well and to treat people well if they themselves do not feel well. And to me, that's the greater goal. And I'll stand in any room or in any platform, and I will defend anybody who works with me, their right to recharge and to, to connect with their family, to make sure that they're not having extra external issues affecting their job performance.
Right, right. And you mentioned, your agency, just like a lot of agencies around the country, are dealing with shortages on manpower. How are you guys dealing with that?
So we're dealing with that in a different way. So we're attacking the recruiting world differently. I'll come right out and say, listen, like, I don't want just anybody working here. For me, yes, it's a numbers game, but it's not a numbers game, Dale. Like, I don't want just anybody working here. For example, I will tell people when we interview with them, traditional policing does have a place here. But if you think that you're just going to come here and all I want you to do is kick in doors and lock people up, this is not the agency for you. I want people that want to be at community meetings. I want people that are comfortable speaking to people and letting people bare their souls and earn the community's trust. I want people that can pause a little bit and think about the ramifications of arresting somebody for something that is minimal, where maybe a referral or some sort of restorative justice practice might be a more appropriate reaction for the longevity of the person we're dealing with, and for the trust it will build between the community and our agency. I also want people that embrace collaboration and like working with other agencies, because quite frankly, we depend on it with such short manpower. We depend on our partners from the Boston Police. We depend on our partners from the MBTA Police and the State Police and some of the other agencies throughout the city of Boston. And the partnerships we have with them, with many, social services agencies, it's critical. And I want people that embrace collaboration, and that's really what they're looking for. Again, like, there's a need. Don't get me wrong. Where we work, some folks have to go to jail. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah.
But there are times where maybe there's a different approach and a better, more human approach that's more appropriate, and that's one of many things that I look for when we're selecting folks. And I got to say, I don't have many folks, but the people I have are top notch, and they're doing amazing work. And I am so proud of each and every one of them.
Now, so if you try to look for people like that, how do you weed that out? How do you screen for those sorts of traits that you're looking for?
You know what I do? I have a very human conversation with them. So the interviews here are more, though we have questions and we do have points that we need to get across, I really want to humanize the interview process. I want to make it more of a conversation between people that just have a passion for things. So, like, I want people to understand my passion for fair and impartial policing. I wanted people to understand my passion for procedural justice. That's a huge one with me. And I'll go a little bit deeper into that. So procedural justice, when most people hear that, they think about how the police treat the people we deal with, on a professional level, right? That's what most people think when they talk about procedural justice, just being fair to those people. But I've taken it one step further, and procedural justice, if you're a leader out there, I want you to listen close to this. That has to happen inside your department too. You have to treat your people fairly. For example, the internal affairs process, a professional standards process, it is necessary, and it is something that is essential to police work. However, when we have the ability to wrap up an investigation quickly, when we have the ability to let people know, hey, listen, you are being investigated with this, we're going to go as quickly as possible. But when they're exonerated, or if it's unfounded, you got to let them know as quickly as possible, because anybody that's done this job, that's been under investigation, can tell you about the amount of stress that puts you under, and what that does to your family, and the ripple effect that it has in your life. So I think we're obligated to keep that in mind and never forget where we came from, and make sure that we're treating people fairly in these processes, and we're doing it as quickly as possible. And we're making sure that when they are in fact exonerated, which I have to say probably happens the overwhelming majority of the time, that they know that we stand behind them 100%, and that we back them. and that we support them, and we make sure that we shout it from the highest mountaintops to make sure that everybody knows that. I think that that's just one component of procedural justice that gets missed sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been hearing that term a lot lately. I've been tuning in to shout out to my boy Marlon Marace, former LAPD internal affairs sergeant, who has his own podcast, the internal affairs podcast, where he talks about that, where a lot of the times the punishment is the process more so than the actual decision that's made on whether it's founded or unfounded. Because these investigations take forever. They can take up to a year or two just to conclude, and all that stress involved with that is, like I said, more of the punishment than the punishment.
100%. And I'll have to check out that podcast. That's somebody who I'd love to link up with, because he hit the nail on the head. You drag people emotionally through the mud in these processes, and we have to be conscious of that fact. And again, I'm not saying we got to get away from it, because it's something that, when you're talking about transparency and building trust with the community, it's something that has to happen. But I do think that we can be better about it. And I do think that that when, if it's not something that's overly complicated and overly deep, that we need to do everything we can to do it as quickly and as expediently as possible for the well-being of our officers and for the morale in the building.
Absolutely. Love hearing that. So I see behind you there, and on your shirt there, let me pull that up there. It says Supply the Why, hashtag Supply the Why. Tell everybody what that's about.
So hashtag Supply the Why is a podcast and a business that I started shortly after the George Floyd incident. And what happened was, in my town, we had a group of young folks ranging from former students from when I was a school resource officer to local young adults that were clearly and rightfully so very angry about that incident. And they were looking for somebody in law enforcement that they trusted to engage in a conversation with, to kind of get the law enforcement perspective as to how we viewed that incident. And we decided, it was actually my first Zoom, y'all. So I'm over there trying to figure out how to get on Zoom, and, can you hear me now, and all this craziness. And they had me on the Zoom, but the conversation was so powerful. And it was so cathartic that we decided to share that out with people. And I said, hey, there's something to this. Like, in this country, we've gotten to a point where the old adage, agree to disagree, is kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit, and people just don't do that anymore. And Supply the Why, what we do is we facilitate conversations about difficult topics and polarizing topics, and it's something that is that I'm passionate about. It's something where I have met so many great people through this, and it's really helped it's not just helped me personally, but it's helped me professionally. And again, I've made a lot of new friends all over the place, not just regionally, but even across the country, from having these difficult conversations about these polarizing topics.
Absolutely, yeah. Hearing different perspectives, goes a long way. And that's one thing that I espouse and I subscribe to is, in my social circle, it's not all cops. I tell people, new people coming up when I was an FTO, field training officer, I tell these new guys, make sure you have friends outside of this profession to kind of keep you grounded, talk to, your spouses and your family and all that sort of stuff. And, but if you had, bad actors in your social group before you were a cop, you probably want to let those go as well. But yeah. But still, if you surround yourself with people from different walks of life, different ideals, that can absolutely help you in your career as well.
Yeah, without a doubt, Dale.
Yeah, for real. And you're talking about people that you've met. You are married, right?
Yes. So I am married. I have three beautiful kids. Okay. My oldest daughter is a senior in high school. My son is in 8th grade, and my youngest daughter is in 6th grade. So I don't have babies anymore, but no. But two of my kids still kind of sort of want me around. My oldest daughter wants to do her thing and kind of go from 17 to 30, and I'm trying to get her to slow down a little bit. Life will happen quick. Take your time, enjoy being a high schooler, enjoy all the benefits of having people around you that will do some of the heavy lifting. Life will come soon enough. So that's the conversation we're having around here with her.
Yeah. Any of them, what do any of them think about that, dad being a police officer, especially now in 2024? And do any of them want to follow in dad's footsteps?
So right now, none of them want to follow in my footsteps. And I told them that's perfectly fine. The game has changed. This is I only have 20 years in this job, and the game has changed several times over in my 20 years. So it'll be even different by the time they're age appropriate to consider something like this. So I encourage them to follow their own path. I did tell them if they decide they want to do this, that we're going to have a real conversation about it. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly about the job, and I'm going to make sure that they have all the appropriate information in order to make an educated decision.
Have they seen dad at work? Have they been to, not necessarily ride-alongs? They might be too little, but they've been to see dad doing his thing.
So they did. So my previous job was right here in town, and I was here for about 7 years, and it was critical because I was able to go to a lot of their events. I was able to to maybe stop by on shift and see some of their extracurricular activities, and it was important for them to be able to see me in town and how the public received me. When I was a school resource officer, I used to bring them up to the school. They were little at the time. And I thought that was important, Dale, because there were a number of our students that came from broken homes. There were students that, sometimes the best part of their day was coming to school. And the most important word in school resource officer is the word resource. And I wanted to humanize my position when they saw me switch roles, like, maybe I'd bring my family to a sporting event. And now they see me as a dad and as a neighbor that happens to be a police officer instead of just a police officer. And I can tell you right now, the bonds that I built with some of those kids are unbelievable. And I'll tell you why, because of my 13 police officers that I have right now, 2 of which were kids that were in the high school when I was a school resource officer. And I have a third that's in the pipeline right now looking to get on with us. So that's an incredible feeling.
That is awesome. Each one teach one. Exactly.
It really is.
Tell me about as the interim chief and before that the deputy chief. What's the kind of the most rewarding part of your job?
The most rewarding part of the job is being able to kind of put some of the water cooler talk. We talked about it backstage before we went live about, in every police department, there's always that water cooler talk. Like, hey, if I was in charge, I would do this. Or, I don't understand why the administration do this. If I had my way, then I would do this. That whole king for a day thing or queen for a day thing that we all talk about when we're patrol officers. So I enjoy looking in the mirror, and I enjoy challenging myself to never forget where I came from. I enjoy challenging myself to try to think of new ways to make the job fun or to make the job more comfortable for people. And I enjoy being a better listener than I am speaker. And I think that's incredibly important in today's world, because a lot of our young folks, a lot of our young officers, they expect to be heard a lot more than we did when you and I came in, when it was kind of like, hey, new guy, shut your mouth, do what you're told, and things will be okay. That's not how a lot of these young folks are now. Like they want to be able to talk to you, and they want to be able to put some ideas on up for discussion, and I enjoy being able to really balance that and do that for them, because I have found that when you just listen, it's not always a yes, but when you give people the ability to kind of be part of the solution, you get by a little bit better buy-in that way.
Procedural justice.
Procedural justice. That is another way of procedural justice, giving people a voice when it's time to do so. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And then on the flip side, what's kind of more challenging part of your job?
One of the more challenging parts of the job is trying to get people to understand that this is not your mother or your father's police department, meaning that this job has changed so many different times over the years. and trying to have the conversation that, hey, like if something happens 1,000 miles, 800 miles from here, that has little to nothing to do with our department, and trying to understand and trying to get people to understand that, if I treated you fairly yesterday, and then you see something on the news that happens, uh, hundreds of miles away, that shouldn't impact how you and I deal with each other, because I'm still the same person that was fair to you. I'm still the same person that showed up when you needed me. I'm still the same person that gave you a hug, or just the kind word when you needed it. So, trying to get people to understand not to judge me based on the actions of others is a constant uphill battle. And a lot of times, especially in the communities that I'm in a lot of communities of folks that look like me, a lot of communities of color. And sometimes I just simply draw the parallel of, do you like it when someone compares you to and slaps all of us with the same broad brush, that all black folks do this or all black folks
Right.
do that? And of course, Dale, their answer is no, like I'm a person and I have nothing to do with that. And I say, exactly. Exactly. You're doing the same thing to me because I wear blue.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you do get those aha moments. Again, when you have these human conversations with people, like, it's not accusatory. I'm not looking to win the conversation per se. I'm just simply looking to enlighten and simply trying to get you to look at the situation through a different window. And if I can do that, we can have,
Yeah.
it really does open up the doors for some pretty powerful collaborations and some pretty powerful partnerships.
For sure, for sure. And sometimes that's a tall ask, to ask people to only look at us as excuse me there. Definitely have to edit that out.
Mhm.
To look at us as just, individuals, as opposed to one monolithic thing. Because like you said, something that happens in Boston can affect us over here in LA, in the LA area. So yeah, that's just the nature of our job in law enforcement. That's what happens. Because they do see us as one big thing, that, we all back each other no matter what, whether it's good or bad. And I tell people all the time, there's no one that hates a bad cop more than a good cop.
1,000%. And I'm glad you circled back to that, because when we talked about, how Supply the Y was born, that was one of the things that I made sure that I led with. I hated what happened to George Floyd. Like, put his criminal past, put whatever, he may or may not have been under the influence, put all that aside. Simply put, what was the law enforcement purpose to nail on someone's neck for that amount of time? Like,
Right.
like, like what academy teaches that? And that's kind of where I came from. Like, there's an expression, lawful but awful. So even if that was something that was in somebody's policies and procedures as an option, there's all kinds of things that we need to look at. That, yes, you can do it, but should you do it?
But should you?
And that's was kind of the lens I was looking at it through when I had this conversation with folks. And I think it was refreshing for many of them to hear me say that, just because I wear that, I wear a blue uniform, it doesn't mean that I'm just going to automatically co-sign what somebody else does. Um, just like when you and I are on the street, Dale, just because I might have the same pigment as somebody doesn't mean I'm going to tell them that, hey, you're all good, you're not going to jail. Like, if you beat up your significant other, like, I don't care if we have the same pigment or not. Like, you're going to jail. If you try to shoot at somebody, or if you injure somebody, like, the pigment, like who you pray to, what gender you love, like, that's all secondary. Like, we're going to talk about the crime, and that's what's going to judge where we go from here. The act, I should say, not necessarily the crime. That's what's going to
Yes.
drive where we go from here. And trying to get people to understand, like, that's really all it is. Like, I'm an armed umpire in baseball. I'm calling balls and strikes out here. That's it. Like,
Yeah.
that's what I'm doing.
Yep, for sure, for sure. That was kind of more on the extreme side when you're talking about, domestic violence and, and shootings and things of that nature. What about on the low end of that? premeditated traffic stops and things of that nature, that,
Yep.
that people are looking at us to be those guardians of whether or not these people will get stopped in the first place, or if they do because they committed a traffic violation, that they're not taken out of their car unjustly and things of that nature.
Absolutely. So I'll take it a step further. I want, it's the alleged traffic violations, or one of the things that I hate the most, when I was a ship supervisor, is I used to call it license plate roulette. And what people do is, for you folks at home, we have these things called mobile data terminals in cruises, and they're computers that are in your cruiser, and you can just sit at an intersection and you can just input license plates until you see red. So you put in somebody's license plate, you get an alert that this person might have a warrant, or maybe their registration is suspended or revoked, or the license is suspended, revoked, whatever it is. And then you pull people over for that instead of pulling people over for a traffic violation. So the issue with that, and the problem that can come from that, is if there is some sort of pattern, whether you meant it or not, to people that are have X amount of suspended registrations or licenses, and it turns out that some of those people tend to be more of one group than another, you can be looking for problems. But if you are making it about the actual infraction, like somebody rolling a stop sign, if somebody is going 50 and a 30, if people all those type things, those are tangible reasons for a car stop. I think that you're in a better spot when you stick to those tangible reasons. Then you run the plate, and then whatever happens, as opposed to sitting at an intersection and just literally just doing data entry until you hit some sort of in your mind pay dirt by getting some sort of alert that this is a car that you should stop.
Absolutely. So what's next on the horizon for you, Chief?
So what's next on the horizon is to continue to retain and to recruit. And the reason, usually people say recruitment and retention. I like to say it the other way around, because if your boat is sinking, you have to get the water off before you can repair it, right? So same thing in law enforcement. Like, I got to make sure I stabilize, and this job is attractive enough to keep people here. People are being treated fairly, and people are being treated with respect, and they tend to want to stay. Like, I'm lucky so far that people really want to stay. We're not losing a ton of people, but I owe it to them to do my very best to sell people on the vision, to sell people on the opportunity that is the Boston Housing Authority Police Department, to get them to want to come be part of what we're building here. So that's definitely first and foremost on my radar. I would say second to that is I want to build future leaders. And the reason why I want to pause there for that, and that's important, is I want to be able to replace myself as a deputy chief with somebody that's already here. So mentorship, taking the time to find out with people. Like, I just finished doing what we call 360-degree interviews, where I meet with all of my sworn staff, and the first half of the meeting is them interviewing me. They get to talk about things that they like, things that I'm doing well, things that I'm not doing well, things that I need to change, things that they think that we as a department can do better, things that I can do better. And then midway through, we kind of switch roles, and then I talk about my expectations of them, and how their job performance has been, and what they can do. And then most importantly, we always end with what their vision is. Where do they want to be? Where do you want to be? What do you aspire to do? Do you want to sit in my seat one day? And if you do, how can I help you get there? Let's talk about it. Like, what trainings can I get you to? Are there meetings that I sit in on that might not be, say, like patrol or sergeant level meetings, but is it something that maybe you could sit in on and kind of get a feel for what goes on behind the curtain, to decide if this is for you or not? And to maybe if you get a chance to take a view of the department from that 3,000 foot penthouse view instead of the ground floor view, maybe that'll give you a couple aha moments where you understand more of why I move the way I do, and why I emphasize some of the things that I emphasize. And I just think it makes for a more well-rounded patrol officer, sergeant, whatever, when you have an understanding of at the very least, the next rank up and what their goals and objectives are. I think that it just benefits everybody. And so far the reviews have been overwhelmingly pretty good with people that enjoy these 360-degree interviews, and they enjoy having the ability to have me pull back the curtain and let them know that this is open for you, and I'm here to help you and help your trajectory as much as possible. It's great.
And that helps in their development, whether it's staying with you guys or taking that skill set elsewhere.
It does. It does. It's a double-edged sword, of course. If nothing hurts more sometimes than when you invest in somebody and you train them and you put your personal equity, sweat equity into them, and then they leave. But as long as they leave the right way, you got to shake hands and part as friends, because the last thing we want to do is force people to stay and have a bunch of hostages working for you. Like that doesn't benefit anybody. It doesn't benefit the agency. It doesn't benefit our vision, the way we want to go, and it definitely does not benefit the community that we serve. So, it's a gamble, and sometimes sometimes it causes you a little bit of pain, but I would say overwhelmingly it's been a good thing. And I've even had people that have left or wanted to leave that still recommend us as a good place to work, because they were treated with dignity and respect while they were here.
All right. And that's how you got there, was, taking your skill set that you learned elsewhere and brought that there. And now you're bringing that philosophy over there to the housing authority. Sounds like, you're doing some good work over there, and I wish you all kinds of luck there in the future.
Well, I appreciate it. And again, I haven't always worked for people that looked at things the same way I do. And
Okay.
I want to make sure that that's clear. So, sometimes it's about you taking your opportunities. And if you feel like you've hit a wall, sometimes you have to have the courage to maybe look elsewhere. If you feel like if maybe you've been undervalued, or if when you try to have these conversations, people aren't willing to have these conversations, you got to find some place that values your skill set, that values what you bring to the table, and really wants to make you part of the future vision. So that's kind of how I ended up here.
All right, Chief. Hey, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your philosophies and your thoughts and all that with us here today. Why don't you spout some words of wisdom for anybody that's looking to be a leader in their own department, or looking to come over to the housing authority, real quick before I get you out of here.
Absolutely. So for anybody that's an aspiring leader, I meant what I said about not forgetting where you come from. That's important. It's not just like a cliche thing that gets thrown around. You have to take a moment of pause before you make decisions that are going to negatively affect people. You have to weigh the good and bad of an outcome, and then you have to strategize accordingly before you move forward. You also owe it to people to have conversations with them, and really let them know what your thought process is when you do make these decisions that may negatively affect people. I think that's important for leaders. I think sometimes people they might delegate down to somebody to have somebody else be the bad guy and be the heavy in a situation. I would avoid doing that as much as possible, because you might put yourself in a hole that you can't get out of when you do that. So try to be as open and honest with people as possible. Try to be as genuine as possible. And when you have to do something that might be a little that might be seen as negative, just try to make sure that that you're coming from a place of caring, and you're letting people know that you are there to work with them and help them be the very best they can be. Now, as far as coming in to be part of what we're doing, I meant what I said. Like we're looking for folks that want to be part of a greater solution. We're looking for people that believe in procedural justice. We're looking for folks that believe in collaboration and partnership with the community, and not just having our community be occupied territory when we roll around. Like that is so important, that you want to be part of the community. I want people that want to go to community meetings and want to speak and want to be heard, and want to do some listening. So if that sounds like you, we're hiring. Check us out at Boston Housing Authority PD. It's a rewarding job. Then I think that you're really going to love what we're doing and where we're headed.
For real. All right, Chief. On that note, hey, I appreciate you coming down again. And hey, basketball season's coming up, and you know, my Lakers, you know, we got we got a new season. Hopefully that we can do something. I don't know what you guys, Jason Tatum and all those guys, what they're gonna do again this year, but I'm not a big Celtics fan, so yeah, we'll leave.
Hey, I hear you. You know, it's one of those things that everybody.
You did say Robert Horry, so you know
I did see Robert Horry, but I was thinking more Rockets Robert Horry than Lakers Robert Horry. Yeah. But I know how it is, Dale. You hate us because you ain't us. You know what I mean? I get.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think they took the 18th championship. They went over because we were tied for a while at 17, and then that last one they got over. So yeah, we'll be back.
Hey, we still got love for you anyway. You know, you can come visit us anytime you want. You can come check out that 18th championship. And
no, it ain't happening. That ain't happening. All right, Chief. Hey, I appreciate you. You be safe out there, and good luck on everything. I hope you get that job permanently.
No, I appreciate it, Dale. Thank you for your time, and thank you for everything you're doing with the Black and Blue podcast. It's important work you're doing, and it's important that you're letting stories like this be heard out there. I hope this helps somebody out there.
I'm sure it will. You take care, Chief.
All right, brother. Have a great night. Thanks, Dale.
All right, y'all. That's how we do it. Another amazing interview with another amazing guest. I want to thank Boston Housing Authority Interim Police Chief Din Jenkins for stopping by and sharing this story with us. I really enjoyed it, sir, and hope you get that job on a permanent basis. If you guys enjoyed this conversation as much as I did, go on ahead and give it a like and leave a comment in the section down there below. I'll be back before you know with another amazing interview, just like this one. But till then, y'all know the phrase. Stay black and blue. I'll holla at you. Deuces.
This has been a Maitre D Entertainment presentation.